Hello, everyone. Welcome to the April 30th episode of Stack in the Box, the draft recap episode of Stack in the Box. Iain McMillan here, Sterling Holmes. It is the final day of April. Happy end of April still.
Yeah, happy end of April.
The year is flying by, and we are already through the NFL draft. We are just months away from the start of the NFL season. Obviously, we need to dive into the draft a little bit. You were on the live stream with me a bit this past Thursday. A lot of stuff happened since then. Most notably, Shadeur Sanders finally drafted, which is where we're going to start because this has been the topic of the NFL world. I actually just saw a tweet that despite being drafted in the 5th round of pick 144, Shadeur Sanders has the top-selling jersey of all rookies since the draft.
But does he even have a number? Like, that seems
Good question.
silly.
I think he does.
For example, the Chiefs might end up having the highest selling rookie jersey, and it's going to be a 4th rounder with Jalen Royals, because if he goes number 85, which is realistic for a wide receiver, Royals 85, that's when the Royals won the World Series, was the 85. So everyone in Kansas City is talking about if he gets 85, that's going to be. It's like, why did a guy who had 300 yards win the highest grossing rookie jersey seller?
Couldn't he also go like 14?
It'd be 15.
15.
And I'll let you think why 15 is not going to work.
Someone else wearing 15? Oh, Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, probably can't use 15.
I made that joke on air. Everyone's like 85. I go, well, I say 15. Just go to Patrick and say, hey, Patrick, sorry, you're gonna have to switch, pal.
Yeah, true. So let's talk Shadeur Sanders. Obviously, it has been the talk of everything since the draft. He fell. I mean, I don't need to recap what happened. We all know now. He was projected a 1st-round quarterback at best. 2nd quarterback off the board, top 10 pick, fell all the way to the 5th round. I think it's the biggest fall I've ever seen in the NFL draft. Sterling, I'll just give you the floor. I have a little bit of a different take than what I think most people have. So I'll let you take the floor. Just give me your thoughts on the whole Shadeur Sanders saga.
I'll start first with the prank call, which is just horrendous. That drives me insane. Also, he cost his dad $100K, the Falcons $250K. That's brutal, man. Like, that's just uncalled for. Not only was it just dumb, you recorded it, you posted it, and it wasn't even funny. You're just an ass. Like, that drives me insane. Like, I don't get, I'm going to sound so old, but kids these days, like, I don't get that. That's absurd. You're trying to take away from what is almost going to be the greatest moment of this man's life. Whether you like the guy or not, that is dumb. That is atrocious. I'm glad. I don't want to say I'm glad he got fined, because I almost feel for the dad in this situation to an extent. But man, that kid, I'll tell you what, he's going to be off his dad's phone bill. Shadeur Sanders, the talk going into it was all 2nd best quarterback. And then it was all of a sudden going, is he a 2nd round guy? And he just kept somewhat falling even prior to the draft. And then you start seeing these things come out of these clips. And again, everyone has clips, right? But him being a me first guy, a look at me guy. I don't think the talent is necessarily there for him to be a look at me guy. I mean, he's even there with his legendary and all this stuff. He has a whole crew and all this. It just, everything is over the top. It can't just be about what happens on the football field. And part of it is because his dad. It's unfortunate, but if his dad was out of the limelight and just a normal guy, I think Shadeur gets drafted earlier. I've not thought about this too much, but has there ever been a guy where your dad being a professional athlete is actually used against you? Normally it's used as a positive of, well, he knows, he's been around the locker rooms, he gets what it's like to be a pro's pro, he understands all this stuff, the big lights. It's used against him. It's used as a negative. It's used as he thinks it's going to be spoon-fed to him. He thinks he deserves this. I think it's ridiculous he went to the 5th round. I'm shocked, but I also understand where if you're saying he's not a starting caliber quarterback, well, why would you want him as a backup? Your backup quarterback is supposed to be out of the limelight. The backup quarterback is to cause no drama. That's pretty much what the backup quarterback is in today's NFL. And he's not going to do that. I think he's talented enough to be a back-end starter. I do. You know my thoughts. I think he's got a pretty decent floor, even if the ceiling is not great. I was shocked, perplexed by the entire thing. I think there were some me-first tendencies that other teams probably picked up on. And I do think Dion, his dad, was used as a negative, which for one of the first times I can remember, a professional athlete, that your dad is used as a negative instead of a positive.
Here's my takeaway from the whole thing, because I don't think there's too much to talk about in terms of why he dropped. I think it's very clear that teams didn't evaluate him as a first-round talent, and if you're not a first-round talent, then things like those distractions and Dion, being very vocal and having your dad as your head coach throughout your entire football career, even in high school his dad was his head coach. Teams will overlook those things if you're a first round, if you're an elite talent, but the mixture of that plus him not being a first-round talent, it makes sense why he fell all the way to the fifth round. Where my issue actually is not with Shadeur. It's not with the teams. It's with NFL media and not their response to it. But I'm talking about guys who make mock drafts. Whether you make mock drafts because you evaluate talent or you make mock drafts because you're an insider and you're supposed to have, the inside scoop with all these teams. How did nobody see this coming? There are some guys out there who get paid big bucks to predict where players get drafted in the NFL draft. And I didn't see one single person have him follow to the first round, let alone all the way to the fifth. Now, there's two reasons for this. Either number one, it's because you're a bad evaluator of talent. You watched Shadeur Sanders tape, or you just copied other people's opinions and thought he was a first-round talent. That's bad. Or the other option, which Peter Schrager actually kind of admitted to this, who he is an insider, not a talent evaluator. He said he talked to a bunch of teams and no teams had any inclination they were going to take him in the first round, but he felt so scared of the backlash of not having Shadeur Sanders in his first-round mock draft that he just threw him to the Steelers in there and hoped that Mike Tomlin was going to draft him. Both of those are bad. These guys are getting paid tons of money to predict the NFL draft, and if you're off by 4 rounds, and if you're Mel Kiper and you're going to make a big stink of it every time the camera comes to you during draft coverage, that's a bad look. What are you even getting paid for? Either you should be able to evaluate talent better, or you shouldn't be afraid to put your opinion on paper. If you're hearing that teams have no plan of taking him in the first round, but then you put him in your first round because you're scared of backlash, grow a set. This is the media. You're going to have backlash no matter what you say. So my issue isn't with Shadeur Sanders or with NFL teams not drafting him. It's the people who are supposed to do the mock drafts. What happened?
I like Peter Schrager a lot, and I'm glad.
Yeah, at least he admitted it.
Yeah, I'm glad he at least admitted it, and now going forward, maybe guys can do it on the forefront instead of afterward. I do like Peter Schrager a lot. I think he's a really nice guy. I see him once or twice a year. I like Schrager. So, but you're right. If you hear that, you should put that. If you don't think he's going to be drafted there, but you're scared of the backlash, again, going forward now, I think you should stick with... A lot of folks are going by what you say.
Right.
So then the media backlash becomes even more, and then you get another storyline of, well, how did they not draft him? What's going on? All of this stuff. Well, if people would have just said, hey, he's not a first rounder, this is what I'm hearing, well, then you can get out in front of it. It's not quite as big of a story as Shadeur dropping. I have issues with Mel Kiper Jr. I get it if you feel a certain way. If your mock goes this way, this is what I think. Okay, but at some point it's like, we get it. We get it. We understand Mel Kiper. That's your guy. But can we let Jackson Dart have his moment now? Like, I don't need to hear about everything bad Jackson Dart does and why you think Shadeur should have gone there. Because now you're doing what we dislike, which is taking away from that guy's moment. That's my point.
Richard Watson in the chat says, he's a first-round pick. We all know this. This is about no need to even say. You guys can't even talk about it straight up.
What are you talking about?
He's not a first-round pick. He's a fifth-round pick. And there have been teams over and over and over again throughout the years who have drafted guys in the first round who have problematic backgrounds, and Shadeur Sanders doesn't even have a problematic background. But teams are willing to overlook it and take guys in the first round.
That's just absurd.
There's no way, if teams felt he was a first-round talent, one of those teams is going to take him. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's what are we doing here? It's the NFL. If they think you're good, they take you.
Now, he might fall like Johnny Manziel fell, because Johnny Manziel was a problematic guy, but he's still a first-round pick.
How many?
And Johnny Manziel was way more problematic than Shadeur Sanders, but he had way more talent than Shadeur Sanders.
How many problematic guys get massive deals? How many problematic guys get drafted in the first round or drafted at all?
How many problematic guys get re-signed after getting released for beating their wife all the time?
Jalen Carter. Remember the talk?
Yeah. Killed a guy.
What are we doing here?
Teams are going to let Shadeur Sanders fall because he's arrogant? Not a chance. If a team felt he was a first-round talent, he was going to go in the first round.
That's absurd.
Yeah, so that was my take about Shadeur Sanders. I hope he does well, to be honest. I think he's an exciting personality, and the Browns are in an interesting spot. They have 5 quarterbacks now on the roster.
And by the way, you heard my thoughts. I said that I thought Shadeur Sanders was the highest floor of any quarterback getting into the draft this year.
Right.
You know that. It's also a really bad quarterback class. Really bad. I mean, this is like Jake Locker bad. When you had to hype up Jake Locker. This is what we're doing in this particular draft class. I don't know what the Browns are necessarily. I mean, okay. But 5 quarterbacks, Joe Flacco, Deshaun Watson, 2 rookies, Kenny Pickett. It seemed like this was an owner-driven pick. Haslam basically looked like it was if you look at the call, didn't look like the head coach and everyone was GM were thrilled. It looked more like this was a Haslam pick more than anything else.
Yeah, there was odds released today for who will take the first snap at quarterback for the Browns this season. Kenny Pickett, favorite, plus 130. Joe Flacco right behind him, plus 160. Shadeur Sanders, plus 300. And then Dylan Gabriel, 10-1, which I don't necessarily agree with those odds. A huge difference despite being drafted 2 rounds later than Gabriel. But it's going to be probably one of the vets. Kenny Pickett or Joe Flacco will at least start the season.
Yeah, someone's going to have to get released.
Yeah, or traded or something, yeah. Deshaun Watson probably out for the year with that injury.
Yeah, he's going to start the PUP list. So that doesn't matter.
Yeah. But yeah, you keep 2, I guess 1 practice. Yeah, you can't really keep them all. So that's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. That'll definitely be the top storyline in preseason training camp. All right, let's talk draft grades. Now, these are always very funny because these are just completely subjective and we have no idea. It's like which you're basically just grading which team drafted the most guys that you like, I guess.
Yes.
So do you have a best draft grade? You can't pick Chiefs or Falcons for best or worst because we're going to talk with them separately.
And I wouldn't put either one of those in best or worst. Although the Falcons, I think, could make a case for one for the amount of capital I gave up. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to try and rib you too much right now. And by the way, again, we had a whole bit today on air. People ask me about the Chiefs draft, all the players, and I just go, you know how fun it would be if we did a radio show where the entire time is, I can't really make any sort of a view on this guy until about, I don't know, 7 or 8 games in. Okay, well, what do you think about Omar Norman-Lott? Yeah, so I think I'll give you my thoughts after he plays about 10 games in the NFL. Yeah. I hate when people get mad at you for talking. What do you want to talk about? This is what we're going to do.
Right.
And by the way, I think the Cardinals, based on what I like and some of the guys that they got, which I like, did a great job. They went pretty much big schools, Ole Miss, Michigan, Oregon, Ohio State, Texas. But I loved Walter Nolan. Great pick for them. They needed to get some help defensively because offensively, I think Arizona is fairly set. Marvin Harrison Jr., obviously, but, Trey McBride, maybe the most underrated tight end in football. Kyler Murray, I still think is a solid quarterback, but Walter Nolan, Will Johnson was sliding, I'm assuming because of medicals. They got a guy who was, by most boards, a consensus top 10 pick. Got him at 47. Love the value there. Jordan Burge, edge rusher from Oregon at 78, I thought was nice. And then a later round pick, 5th round, Denzel Burke, cornerback from Ohio State. I really like Denzel Burke there. I think he has potential to be, a starting corner, and getting that guy in the 5th round I thought was nice. So overall, I really liked what Arizona did.
I do just want to be clear, just for the audience who's watching. I'm not just randomly drinking wine on a Wednesday afternoon. I did a show called The Happy Hour with my friend The Degenerate right before this, where you're supposed to have a drink during it. So I was just finishing that. I'm not randomly just for no reason drinking wine on a Wednesday afternoon. My highest draft grade goes to the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
Malachi Stark, safety. I mean, their defense is already one of the best in the NFL, has improved even further. Malachi Starks, safety to go next to Kyle Hamilton. And then round 2, who during the live stream, I kept on being like, when's Mike Green going to get drafted? When's Mike Green? And you want to talk about a problematic guy. Mike Green, that's about as far as you can drop for a problematic guy to middle of the second round. And you're telling me Shadeur dropped only because teams like thought he was arrogant? No, come on. Mike Green, though, still problematic. Yes, still a very good football player. I thought the Falcons were going to take him at 15, and the Ravens got him at 59. Emory Jones Jr. to shore up the offensive line a little bit, give the offensive line some depth there out of LSU in the 3rd round. And then even, listen, they got their Justin Tucker replacement maybe in Tyler Loop in the 6th round. I know kicker and getting drafted is kind of laughable, but it was kind of a weakness for the Ravens last year. So I like the Ravens draft quite a bit. I think they filled a lot of holes. I think they got some steals. I like what they did.
I actually like Carolina too, as well. By the way,
that was the other team I was going to bring up.
Yeah, Carolina was. I really like Tet McMillan, Nick Scorton, the edge from A&M. I always liked them. Princely, the edge from Ole Miss. Those 3 guys. But then you get a nice running back piece with Etienne, and then I love the safety pick of Lathan Ransom from Ohio State. Again, a lot of Ohio State players that I really liked. Shockingly, they had a great team this year, so makes a lot of sense. But man, I did like what the Panthers did, especially early on in that draft.
How do you feel about your boy Luther Burden going to the Bears?
Yeah, I'm shocked he went to the Bears. He'll have a great fan base, a lot of Mizzou alumni and fan from Chicago, so he'll have a built-in base there. I am shocked he went 39, man. I was bummed the Chiefs didn't grab him at 31, then they moved back to 32. I really like Luther Burden, man. I think he has a very high floor. I don't think he has the highest ceiling, but I think his floor is just incredible, and he does have enough of a ceiling because he can do a little bit of everything. Great hands, really good yak ability, can be a deep ball threat, can track the ball really well. Yeah, man, I was bummed he went 39 because I really felt like he actually was a first round quality player. It sure seems like he got dropped down boards because only thing I can think of is the A&M game in particular when he kind of threw a fit during the game, which I completely understand why he did. If you watch that whole game, you'll understand. All I've heard is that he's been a consummate professional at Missouri. Yeah, I love Luther. Great pick for the Bears. Great value for the Bears. I think he's going to be an absolute stud.
I also want to shout out the Giants. I thought I had a strong draft. Obviously, Abdul Carter seemed kind of like the most can't-miss guy. We'll see what happens with the Jackson Dart, but then, Cam Scatabo later on in the draft, I think, decent draft there by the Giants as well. At least some players that the fan base can get excited about. I meant to actually mention this. Didn't the Jets just drafted a guy who retired immediately, right?
I don't know if I saw that actually.
I think I saw that.
I'm not gonna lie to you.
Oh, sorry. He was. I didn't read the whole tweet. He was drafted in 2023. I saw the tweet. I just read it as 2025. I thought they drafted a guy with a Florida State and he retired.
Oh no, Jordan Travis. He had the gruesome leg injury, Florida State. You remember they were undefeated.
Yes, I remember him now. Yes.
And then he got injured.
I guess it was just because it was a week after the draft. I thought it was a guy who just got drafted immediately retired, which would be very funny.
No, I feel for him. I didn't see a ton of the story, but that's tough, man.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about some teams whose draft we didn't like. Now, I want to bring up a team, Sterling, and see what you think, because a lot of people like this draft. Mel Kiper actually gave this is the only team he gave an A+ to. But I don't see how you can draft 2 quarterbacks and 2 running backs in a draft and have a good grade. You don't need 2 quarterbacks. Just pick one, and you have Nick Chubb. You don't need 2 running backs. I know Nick Chubb obviously wasn't the same after he came back off that injury, but now he has a full offseason to kind of rehab. So, is this high ranking based on Mason Graham and Carson Schwessinger?
Schwessinger from linebacker from UCLA. I actually thought so. I like Carson, the linebacker from UCLA.
Is Nick Chubb a free agent? Producer Sean says Nick Chubb's a free agent.
I thought that was pretty high to draft Carson. I like Mason Graham a lot. They didn't overthink that one. Quinshot Judkins makes a lot of sense, especially if he is your Nick Chubb replacement. Similar play style to an extent, a little more physical. If you heard me talk about it, I was a huge fan of Harold Fanning Jr. I know that thoughts are kind of split on Harold Fanning, but if you look at the production of him in college, I know it's Bowling Green. It's absurd. I mean, just absurd. The production is, again, ridiculous. So I actually liked Harold Fanning. Yeah, Dylan Gabriel and Shadeur Sanders. You're hoping one hits. It kind of worked for Washington when they did this with RG3 and Kirk Cousins.
Worked for the 49ers, I guess.
Worked for the 49ers with Trey Lance and Brock Purdy. So it worked for the Falcons when they had Kirk Cousins and they went. And so
I guess it wasn't the same draft, but
same
same
thing,
idea,
but still the thought process is there. So I guess in that regard, maybe I don't hate it as much as initial thought. Again, I thought the Browns had a fine draft. I thought it was a good draft. Yeah, I thought the Browns did fine, which is wild to say the Browns did a solid job. And then, of course, they go and sign Deontay Johnson. So they want team all problematic is what it sounds like.
So what team are you giving the worst draft grade to?
Yeah, Vikings. Yeah, Vikings to me. I know it's tough. They didn't have a whole bunch of draft picks, so maybe that's a cop-out answer. But I thought they really reached for Donovan Jackson. Went and got Ty Felton at 102 with other players I thought maybe more talented on the board. Yeah, I just wasn't a huge fan of the Vikings pick. But again, it's a little unfair. They had a first rounder and no second rounder. The next pick didn't come till 102. So maybe that's a little bit of a cop-out. But same time, I'm going to go with the Vikings because I think to me that was pretty obvious.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's talk. Obviously,
no, you don't get to back out of that.
Well, I say the Browns.
Oh,
I didn't like the Browns draft. Everyone, other people do, but I don't. I don't think you take 2 quarterbacks. That's a waste of a 5th and a 3rd round pick. I don't think you take 2 running backs.
I thought
there's enough decent free agent running backs out there. I don't think you waste 2 draft picks on 2 different ones.
Oh well, I'll disagree with you on the Browns, man. I didn't know that was your worst. I thought you thought overrated. I didn't know you were going worst. Shocking.
I'll say it's my worst. I didn't love the Commanders draft.
Okay.
Not very many picks though. I feel bad picking against the teams who didn't have very many picks.
Yeah, that's why I kind of feel bad for the Vikings.
All right, we got to focus on, obviously, we are Chiefs and a Falcons fans, so we got to focus on those teams a little bit more than some other teams. So what do you want to start first with, the Falcons or the Chiefs?
Let's go Falcons. Let's go Falcons first.
I think Falcons fans love this draft. Non-Falcon fans hate this draft. I saw some people give the Falcons an F grade for this draft.
Yeah.
Actually, I think on NFL.com, I'm looking right now, I think they have the lowest grade to the Falcons, B-. I love this draft.
5 draft picks, by the way. So, again.
5 draft picks. Listen, I know getting 2 edge rushers in the first round, not great, but if you've watched this team for the past decade, we've never had a pass rush, ever. Past 2 decades. Mostly never. John Abraham was fine. But for the most part, we've never really had a good pass rush. One way to fix that issue is to just throw 2 guys at it and say, hey, fix it. So our issues were edge rush and second corner / nickel. And we addressed both of those. And we got a safety to replace Justin Simmons. So we got the 2 edge rushers. Jalen Walker was a steal. Had no inkling that he was going to fall all the way to us at 15. Didn't have to trade up to get him. James Pierce Jr., who they were originally going to get at 15. They ended up trading back in the first to get him at 26. Then he got Xavier Watts to play the other safety across from Jesse Bates. And then Billy Bowman, who is a safety, but they're going to use him at nickelback, so that solves that issue. And then you have a little bit of depth on the offensive line. 2 positions we did not get is center and defensive tackle, which we probably still need a little bit of help there, especially at center with Drew Dahlman going to where? Chicago, I think it was.
Yeah.
But we plugged the biggest holes in a team that I know this sounds crazy. I know this sounds biased, but I don't think the Atlanta Falcons are far off being a contender in the NFC. I really don't. A full year, if Penix can play a full season like he looked when he played last year, we have the talent. We have the talented receiver. We have the running back. Our defense held us back last year. We fired the defensive coordinator, and then we hopefully can hit on at least one of these pass rushers and patch up the biggest issue, which was we could not rush the passer at all. Every quarterback had 30 seconds to throw the ball.
Yeah, I didn't hate the Falcons draft, although I do think it was, again, this is before they played a snap, obviously, a reach for James Pierce Jr. That's, I guess, maybe where some of that concern comes from. I get why they had to trade at 26 versus even a few picks back. I guess that's my thought process was a lot to give up for a guy that I'm not super high on.
But you gave up a first for a first. You win
And
one
more.
playoff game next year, it's the same pick.
And more. I guess for me, Jalen Walker is a great pick. Just not super high on James Pierce Jr., although I think it could fit more in Atlanta. I was looking at him from a KC perspective, and we were all sitting here going, if they draft him at 31 and then they move back to 32, I was like, in mock drafts, I was like, I don't see how he fits with what the Chiefs defense likes to run. He doesn't seem like a good schematic fit. Could be different in Atlanta. Again, it's always going to be tough when you have 5 picks. That's tough. That is tough. No denying it. But you're right. I mean, the Eagles did the same thing too when their secondary was so bad. They went and got Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, and both hit. And then they were both going, oh,
And they have one of the best secondaries in the league.
Yes. So I'm not saying this is going to be the best pass rush group in the league by any means, but I get why Atlanta did it because they didn't need just one guy. They needed multiple guys who can get up the passer. So was it maybe pigeonholing themselves? Sure. But also Jalen Walker was probably BPA at that point, so that's not really a bad pick by any means.
And a lot of people are saying that this is Terry Fontenot, and I always mispronounce his last name. His desperation, because if they don't make the playoffs this year, he's fired.
Probably.
Yeah, I'd do the same thing. I want a guy whose back is up against the wall, who's had disappointing seasons, to come out firing. I'd much rather that than him come out and try to make the smart move and the conservative move. We'll see. We have the pieces. No, if your back's up against the wall, which it rightfully is, come out firing. Come out swinging. Go down swinging. I don't hate that.
Sure.
All right, let's talk Chiefs. You didn't get your guy at 32.
No, and how funny is it the Chiefs still drafted at 32 even when they lose a Super Bowl? Yeah. Just for the bit, I think that's so good.
And you did not want them to go offensive line or didn't think that they were going to go offensive line because we talked about how offensive line was the favorite for what position the Chiefs drafted with their first pick, and you didn't agree with that.
I hated it, and part of it was I hate it not because I don't like Josh Simmons. Okay, I think there's a little misconception here when I've been talking about this. I don't love the pick necessarily because of the patellar injury, and I think 45% of players who have that injury don't play another snap in the NFL. Like the shelf life after this injury is 2.5 years is what I think we looked up and saw. That's the average. Now, that does not count rookies versus, let's say it happens when you're 31. That is going to skew. So I'll fully admit that that can be a skewed statistic right there. But I think everyone keeps telling me well, he's a top 10 guy. Yeah, pre-injury. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. We've gone through the list of guys, and it's very small of players who've come back and had any sort of success after this injury. Now, I will point out, I'm not in the Chiefs medical staff. I'm not on that room. I don't get to see everything. They talk glowingly about how the surgery was performed, and that gives me a lot of optimism because this Chiefs, medical staff's got it right with a lot of players. They're a lot more lenient, I feel like, than other teams, and it's behooved them. Trey Smith is obviously the first one that comes to mind, but that was a 6th-round draft pick. Not a 1st round. The thing I'll also point out that makes this pick, I think, make more sense is you can take a shot in the 1st round at a tackle. You're not taking a guy in the 4th that has that sort of upside at tackle, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say a wide receiver. You can still get value in the 4th, which is what the Chiefs did, right? So
it does seem like, and I don't have the numbers to back it up, but it does seem like there's very few mid to late round offensive linemen that pan out.
Yeah, tackle specifically, okay? Yeah. It's just hard, man. And when the Chiefs are drafting, I know they want to find their guy. I hope Josh Simmons is that guy. I just have a whole bunch of questions, and not just him, because the Chiefs have not developed tackle at all since Eric Fisher, and Eric Fisher took about 4 years, right? And that's going back. So for me, I didn't want to tackle no matter what. I would have liked them to trade for one, sign one in free agency. I know it's hard, but that's kind of where I lie. Overall, though, I thought the draft was really good. Even if it was a little bit of a reach on Omar Norman Lott, I talked about him a lot. I really like what he can do. I think he is a guy who can be your Tershawn Wharton replacement. He can give you a lot of juice next to Chris Jones. I really like that pick, even if it was a little bit of a reach, because they got a lot of value as the draft went on, so that's not going to be a huge issue for me. So I liked Omar Norman a lot. Ashton Gelati, edge from Louisville. He is in the George Karlaftis build. We had a chance to talk with his head coach. Reminds him a lot of Karlaftis, obviously, and it's funny because his head coach also coached Karlaftis when he was at Purdue. So pretty funny comp there. The Chiefs have done really well in the mold of these guys. Is he going to be a superstar? No. Will he be a high floor player who can get in the action fairly early in his career? I think yes. They've done well with the Mike Dennis and the Karlaftises while they've struggled with the FAUs, the Tano Passignos, and the Joshua Kandos. They like guys who have the high motor and high floor. I think Gelati is that. Noah Williams is a absolute stud. He better be, though, because this was with the Joe Tooney trade. So basically, Joe Tooney, fourth rounder, and another draft pick was used to trade up in the third to get Noah Williams. A lot of pressure on the guy. I think he's up for it, though. Led the FBS in interceptions with 7 last year, had 14 in his career. The Chiefs needed a ball hawk in their secondary, especially with Jalen Watson and Joshua Williams in the final year of their contract. Love this pick of Noah Williams. Jalen Royals, wide receiver. A lot of people had him in the second round. Everyone had him at least in the third. He went 133. Great value pick. A lot of people have him comped before the Chiefs drafted him as Rashee Rice. Well, that's great because Rashee Rice might actually miss games this year because of suspension. Huge fan of this. I think he can be a traditional X as well on the outside, which the Chiefs need. I like this pick of Jalen Royals. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm as enamored as other folks are with Jalen Royals, okay? Because I think a lot of people have this as their favorite pick by a lot of Chiefs fans and media. I like this pick a lot, though. Jeffrey Besa, linebacker from Oregon, special teamer right away, coverage backer. He also was a guy that a lot of people had in the third or fourth. Chiefs got him in the fifth. So based on big boards, Chiefs did a great job this particular draft. But I think he's your Drew Tranquil replacement. So it's more of a future move right here. Chiefs probably going to have to keep 5 linebackers on the roster this year, which is a little bit, a lot of times it's 4. And then final pick, Brashard Smith. I said this is probably the guy that I have tabbed to make a Pro Bowl or All-Star game, or Pro Bowl or All-Pro first from anyone in this draft. Special teamer. I think he's going to be a special team stud, which he was, obviously, in his college career. Ran for over 1,300 yards last year. Chiefs get him the 7th. He is a wide receiver turned running back. Chiefs have not had a ton of success with that in the past with guys like Dexter McCluster or DeAnthony Thomas. But Chiefs needed someone with speed in the running back room. He has that. Phenomenal pass catcher, obviously. Pass pro is going to be an issue early on for him. He won't play every down, but early on, special teams, he will be a stud. So overall, I think the Chiefs did a good job almost picking and choosing every single need they have. Found a guy with value in that spot.
So which of these Chiefs draft picks are going to be the first to get arrested?
Which kid?
Fair question. Most arrested team in the NFL.
I don't think that's true.
I think it's
probably the Raiders or Bengals. Which kid's son is going to be the next dumbass for the Falcons?
Jack Zulberg, apparently.
Yeah.
He seems like a typical broccoli head.
Yeah. And no Chiefs player because they're all good people now.
Okay, well, this is since 2000. I'm going to verify that claim. They do have a lot of arrests.
Yeah, recently they have a couple.
Say a few more than a couple. Oh, there we go. Producer Sean coming in from the clouds. Kansas City Chiefs are the most arrests among NFL teams since 2015. Damn.
Give them second chances.
Damn.
Are we counting Chiefsaholic in here too? Are we counting fans? Because that might also bolster those numbers up too.
Per USA Today reporter Brent Schrotenboer. All right, let's, I always do like to talk odds. So the odds have already been released for Offensive Rookie of the Year and Defensive Rookie of the Year. I assume, Sterling, you have not looked at these odds yet, so I'd like to quiz you who you think is the betting favorite right now to win Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Oh, man. I was going to say Cam Ward, obviously, but I think the correct answer and the one I would go with is Ashton Jeanty.
Per DraftKings, Ashton Genty is the 2-1 betting favorite, yes, to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. Cam Ward right behind him at plus 230, so those two are kind of in a league of their own.
And then maybe a Marion Hampton I could
Nope.
see.
Travis Hunter.
Man, I wouldn't go Hunter.
Travis Hunter is third at plus 750, and then another gap, and then you have a list of guys here. Tet McMillan, 14-1, O'Marion Hampton, 14-1, Tyler. Do we have a consensus on how to say his last name? Because I've heard it pronounced 5 different ways. Shock.
Shook. I think it's Shook.
Tyler Shook, 14-1. Quinshawn Judkins, 18-1. Shadeur Sanders, 19-1, despite being drafted in the 5th round. Travion Henderson, 20-1. Matthew Golden, 25-1. Colson Loveland, 25-1. Tyler Warren, 30-1. So let's stick to the top 2. If you had to personally place a bet, basically same odds. Ashton Genty is more of a slight favorite. Who would you take between Genty and Ward?
Genty.
I would take Ward.
I just believe in Genty. I'm not a huge Ward.
I believe in Genty as a player, but I have a lot of issues about Genty's the Raiders' offensive line.
Agreed, but it's Pete Carroll. They're just going to run the rock.
Yeah.
I think that he's going to get 20 touches a game, at a minute. I think that he is going to be a workhorse. I like Genty, and by the way, I think the best value of any player is Marion Hampton. I think Hampton is really good value.
Raiders aren't going to give our guy Dylan Laube any carries?
He might get a few. I just think Genty. You don't draft him like 6th overall.
Yeah. You're right.
But again, Marion Hampton for the Chargers, I love that draft pick.
Yep. That's actually another draft that I liked a lot. Marion Hampton, who is the guy who the Chargers got in the 2nd round, hopefully will be this year's version of the guy that drafted last year. It was named for some reason I'm blanking on. It's the offseason.
Let me see. Trey Harris. Lad McConkey's who you're thinking of.
Lad McConkey. Thank you.
Yeah, I love Lad McConkey. That was my pick.
He was our pick preseason. He was our dark horse pick to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. All right, this one's a little bit more difficult, Sterling. Maybe it's not actually. Who's going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year?
I think the obvious one's Abdul Carter.
Yeah, plus 250, Abdul Carter. Now, here's a question for you. DraftKings specifically both has Travis Hunter listed as Offensive Rookie of the Year potential and Defensive Rookie of the Year potential, plus 750 to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, plus 800 to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. Which of the two would you rather bet on for him to win?
Not even close defense.
Defense? I don't even know. Is he gonna have a full workload on defense?
I don't think he's gonna have a full workload on offense. If it were me, if it were me, he's a full-time corner. And he's a part-time wide receiver.
I feel like the vibe has been he's more going to be a full-time receiver and like dabble in defense.
How the hell are you going to have I get sub packages and all that stuff, but if you're in your base the majority of the time, okay, what are you going to do? Just keep taking them off every other possession? Like what are you doing here? Like, it's harder to find good corners than it is to find good wide receivers. I'm putting him at cornerback 100% of the snaps, because corners typically play 100% of the snaps, right? I'm playing him at corner 100%. Wide receiver, like 40%.
Can he play nickel? Maybe he's a nickel.
If he's a nickel cornerback, then that's a different conversation.
No, I don't know if he can play nickel, to be fair.
If it's a sub package, I get it. That's a different conversation.
Right.
But if he's an outside corner, he has to be your every down guy.
Yeah.
Like, just the logistics behind it would be, perplexing. Wide receiver, it's super easy to say. They switch wide receivers in and out all the time. That's way easier to bring the snap count and snap share down. So I think he's a cornerback first, wide receiver second. That's the way I view Travis Hunter. That's the way I think teams should view him. I think the value's more on the cornerback side for Travis, personally. Great player. I'm excited to see what he's going to do. But, it's really intriguing to see how the Jags use him. That's just how I personally would use him.
It's pretty cool as a Falcons fan, we have 2 players on the top 10 odds to win Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I would say my probably second pick or third pick overall would probably be Jalen Walker for the Falcons, because they don't have any. Well, they don't have any edge rushers, so I think it's easier for him to get a massive workload early on and shine. Some guys, they got to sit behind guys or rotations. I think he's going to start and be the guy, right? So,
yeah, Defensive Rookie of the Year obviously a little bit more difficult to predict. It's basically any pass rusher that has a chance of starting has a chance to win the award.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jihad Campbell 12-1, Mason Graham 14-1, Shamar Stewart 15-1.
I mean, maybe Mason Graham because you're alongside Myles Garrett, so you're going to get one-on-ones, right? If you want to go that, but that's also a defensive tackle.
Yeah. Well, Aaron Donald won as a defensive tackle now.
Yeah,
he's obviously no Aaron Donald, but
come on now. Yeah. I always push back on that. I mean, Chris Jones had a really good case a couple years ago, and it comes down to sacks. I mean, tackles just traditionally will not get as many sacks as edge rushers. And I think it's fairly silly, but we don't always look at the underlying metrics. I don't think they do as much as they should in regards to the impact of, of pressure rate and all that stuff. And it's always going to be an uphill battle for a defensive tackle unless you are, again, having a legitimate historic season.
7 of the last 10 defensive rookie of the years were edge rushers. 3 of the last 10 defensive rookie of the years were corners.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if you got corner, you're looking at Travis Hunter, Jahdae Barron. Who's the other top corner?
Well, it was Will Campbell. Will Johnson.
Yeah, Will Johnson's now at 30-1. All right. I think that's pretty much the show. Do you have anything else to add before we kind of put the draft in the rearview mirror here?
Well, I love this time of year because every single fan base has a chance. Every single fan base
all have hope.
If you have hope, you can talk yourself into why the Falcons are going to have success this year, even though they probably won't. The Broncos and the Raiders will talk themselves into how, oh my gosh, we're going to be so good this year. Actually, I think the AFC West, all 4 teams had a pretty damn good draft. So I actually tip my cap. I think the Raiders are building this thing, and the Broncos and the Chargers the right way. I think they're still a year away from like legit contention with the Chiefs for the AFC West title, but it's going to be getting closer and closer. I think pretty soon. But yeah, man, I like this time of year, especially if your team's not great. Because I remember those days, like when the Chiefs were 2-14. We'd have talk ourselves into Eric Fisher. Like we're like, yeah, come on, baby. Like this is the time of year when even if your team's bad, you got hope.
You got hope, and that's what it's all about. Especially
Jets fans, this is your time to shine, baby.
All right. If you're listening, I think it's just the audio version of this. If I get some confirmation from producer Sean, if you're listening to the audio version of this, it's going to wrap up with Sterling, your interview with Ashton Jeanty. If you were watching this on YouTube, then go ahead and click Stack in the Box there. If you're not already subscribed, do that. And then you can go watch the Ashton Jeanty interview, which is already up there. This is pre-draft, correct?
There's going to be another one coming your way. So we have a pre-draft one, and right when we wrap up this show, there will be another one that'll be interviewing.
Oh, so it's that one that people are going to listen to.
Oh, yeah, baby. There's going to be 2. We have pre-draft and post-draft Jeanty.
Okay. Correction. If you're listening to this, you're actually going to get a brand new Ashton Jeanty 2.0 Ashton Jeanty interview. Is that with yours truly as well, Sterling?
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. So you'll get that. And if you're watching this live, that interview is not up yet. You can go watch the first iteration of that interview. And then tomorrow morning, come back to Stack in the Box on YouTube and you can watch the follow-up. That's exciting. Talk to a guy right before the draft and right after. That's fun.
I'm excited because I asked him before the draft. He has he was doing a partnership with Max Crosby. I'm like, is it going to be awkward if Max Crosby, your partner, is tackling you? He goes, yeah, well, what if I get drafted to the Raiders? And he did. So I got to ask him and go, so did you know when I asked that question? You're like, yeah, I had a good feeling I was going 6 to the Raiders.
Yeah.
Or did he think that maybe when the Jags traded up to 2 even, did he think, oh, maybe?
There you go. So that'll be fun. Keep an eye out for that. If you're listening to this, like I said, starting Thursday, then you're just going to listen to this right away, so you don't have to change a thing. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Subscribe to Stack in the Box on YouTube. We'll be back next week, 5 p.m. Eastern, live on YouTube on Wednesday. Bye.